Welcome to the Coaching to Flourish podcast. I'm your host, Raj Anderson, coach, assessor, and trainer. And I'm here with John, the founder of Coach Training EDU. And I'm really excited. It's a special day. It's a special week. It's International Coaching Week with the International Coaching Federation. And there's so much to celebrate in the coaching field. What do you want to celebrate, John?
Well, what do I feel like this, a lot of things. It's spring here, and literally the leaves they have just come into being, this last week, 2 weeks. It feels a little bit like it's a transformation. It's looking at sticks, and then these sticks spring to life, and the leaves just come out. It feels to me a lot like a metaphor for coaching, where you see something and you're not quite sure. Okay, is this is this thing going to go? Is it? And then you just trust and you have faith in the process. You have faith in your brilliance. You have faith in the inner strength of nature, and comes out. And wow. So I'm like looking at this. There's specifically this oak tree that did not do great last year because I was watering the trunk with my new irrigation system. And I talked to a tree person. He said, don't do that. So I didn't do that. And I was waiting with bated breath to see whether or not this oak tree would be better this year or not. And it's way better. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, it's like a 10. And I look at it every day. I'm looking at it right now. I feel like it's those things that bring such joy. And it just, So to celebrate, I want to celebrate the oak tree as a metaphor for the coaching profession and process.
Thank you, John. Why do you think it's so important that we continue to celebrate the coaching field? It's come so far, hasn't it? And in your experience?
Yeah, when I first started, it was so new. It felt like, this is back in 2003, and less than 1995 is the official founding of the ICF. So, I was thinking about this morning too. Like the word coaching, life coaching, it's a good name. The word life makes it kind of cheesy. And a lot of people have a misconception that a life coach is someone who just tells you what to do. It's even in pop culture all the time, from you look at Last Holiday to Sing to, a lot of these movies have references to life coaches, and almost every single one of them is, I got this advice from my life coach. And I think coaching is the biggest misconception, is that coaching is not about giving advice. It's about asking powerful, empowering questions. So I was thinking if there's a way to communicate that, and then I go through it like, it's coaching works. I'm like, just keep it. But we need to do our job as people who are coaches, who are certified coaches. We have a responsibility to represent the coaching field and to address these misconceptions of what coaching is and isn't. So that's what I feel like is the work as I see it. If I were to look at the coaching field, like where we are today as a whole field, I feel like that is the biggest challenge that the field has, is the education of everybody into what coaching is and isn't. That's what I see as the state of the field. Other than that, I feel like the field is getting adopted at extreme rates, and this work is happening. People are going to know what coaching is and isn't. It's a matter of how quickly that happens. And each one of us, each as individuals, has a role to play in the speed of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when people don't understand what it is, it's probably one of the most underrated or underestimated skills that somebody could actually have. I think I've shared before, this is why I'm here with you, how passionate I am about coaching and how much coaching changed my own life. And speaking to what you just shared, I actually posted a quote today on LinkedIn. It's a research done by Bursin by Deloitte. And it said that organizations with senior leaders who coach effectively and frequently improve their business results by 21%, as compared to those who never coach. Coaching, therefore, should not just be a nice to have, are more an indispensable part of a leader's skill sets.
Right. I mean, 21% to me feels about right. I mean, that seems like that's huge. Like from a large scale business perspective. I'm curious, Raj, when you're working with individuals in the executive world, what's some of the feedback that you receive from executives who you're probably the first coach that they're officially working with?
Well, initially it's like, oh, this isn't what I expected it to be.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow, I didn't realize I was going to be doing most of the talking.
Right.
Those kinds of things. And initially, first couple of sessions, the go-to can be, well, what would you suggest? Or what would you advise? Or, well, what will we be doing in this space if you're not going to be advising me or telling me what to do? And that's always interesting to unpick or explore through. And sometimes I work with execs who have had coaches before, or they've worked with mentors, and not saying that there hasn't been value add from that experience. But often what I hear is, oh, this is very different. And then you see people smile and they start to enjoy not having somebody telling them what to do or attempting to fix it for them.
So true. So true.
Yeah. And people realizing that they have the answers within themselves and actually, and I've shared this so many times, and you and I have talked about it. And this is why that Design the Alliance and that initial conversation, and I call it a conversation because you're not in coach mode as a coach during that
Mhm.
Design the Alliance piece, is so important. And I think that's where we as coaches are adding that education. I'm sharing then not just what is coaching, what isn't coaching, and how it differs from consulting or mentoring or therapy. I also share, what will a coaching session look like and kinds of tools we will use. And I allow clients, and I've learned that they often have questions. So in that first space, they might have questions for me. And if I still work with a coach, people are curious about those things as well.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that, John?
Yeah, it's very common. I mean, I have the same kind of conversations. I feel like a lot of, when I was working, especially in the executive space, I think when I work in the academic space, there is such a systematic way that I unfold what to expect that I don't get a lot of the same kind of questions from when I have worked in the executive space, where I think sometimes there is a sense of, okay, I'm here, but I want you to prove that this is worth it to me to be here. And there's sometimes like I need more than just my own sounding, like, and I need more than just my own space. But then very quickly, I think there's a realization where it's like, wow, okay, this can get really good really quickly if I know how to use this resource. And so I think there is an element of client education that happens very quickly in this process. And especially if, let's say, clients in the executive space come to you because other colleagues or other contacts have said, hey, this has changed my life. This has made a big difference. And studies like the one from, we said was Gillette, did that?
Deloitte's, yeah.
Deloitte?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, not Gillette.
They might have done a study too.
I think they're Patriot fans, which let's not go there. The idea of, these kind of studies is always fascinating to me, where it's like, okay, how do they get those numbers? They seem about right in my experience too. Like the times when I am working with a coach and not working with a coach, the times that I am working with a coach are just better. It's hard to explain why, but they are. And when I get into it and I realize, okay, this is why, I think there's an element of accountability that happens. There's an element of exploration. I'm currently right now working with 3 different coaches in very specific, very, very specific things. Like 2 of them is specific things and one of them in general. And uh, what I when I really think about why, that's a, that's a good question. Last week, just a very tangible example. Something came up. I needed to talk to one of my coaches. I was able to process with her everything I needed to process about this. Just let it all out. And then I got finished. It was amazing. And I came in and, the other people in my life, and they're like, hey, how'd it go? Like, what's going on? And I could give them the, 2-minute summary, complete with my emotion state being reorganized and, an empowered perspective and a very balanced perspective. And just, yeah, I'm in my power right now. And this is the decision. This is the direction that's going to go, that I think this is going to go. And it was a 2-minute, just, yeah, of course, check, 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 rather than a 30, 45, maybe 50-minute, me processing all of that at wind, just because I need to process it. And like the rest of the team, it's not really for the rest of the team to process that. So, I mean, it's the efficiency of processing and decision making that I see makes that difference. But it's not conscious. It's not like I'm, in real time, I'm not like, oh, this is why coaching is great. This is why coaching works. I mean, it's not top of mind. It's just, it's it's baked into the process. It's like looking at your nephew or niece, and you're away for a couple months and come back and go, whoa, you grew. It's like that. When you're coaching, it's like, it's hard to see yourself evolve sometimes so quickly. But when you look at yourself 3 months and where you've been in 3 months from working with the coach, you're like, wow, I grew. So that's, yeah, that's where I'm going now with.
That's cool, John. And what do you look for when you're selecting a coach?
Oh, oh, I am not a really great coaching client to have. I'm I'm very picky. I give very direct feedback. I have to have a coach who's very confident in themselves in the process, but also gives me a lot of space to go and do my thing. I think the number one thing I look for when I'm working with a coach is someone who is confident enough to let me process what I need to process. Let's say, okay, like let John do John and let him say all the things. And when something comes up, when I bring a challenge, not to tell me what to do or how to deal with that. I have in real time shut down coaching sessions because of that. Said, you know what, this is great, but I got another call. I got to take this by. I will shut it down simply because it's not what coaching is designed to do. I'm not coming to a coach or sharing this stuff so that I can solve the outside problem. I am bringing this stuff so I can solve and explore the inside world. Like, okay, why is this hooking me? Yeah, we could solve it. We could figure out, okay, do step A, B, C, D. That will solve it. Fine. But the bigger thing is, why do I feel this inner tug in the first place? And I know enough not to waste the problem, not to waste the opportunity to look at something if I feel hooked on the inside. And so that's where that is the number one thing I look for with a coach, is how willing are they to help me explore that inner world without the judgment versus their feeling or need to fix the external world. If I had to tell someone working with me as a coach, and I tell them this directly. I mean, I have very specific, and I can't hire coaches I've trained. And that's the other thing. So I go and I have to go and find other coaches trained by other organizations. And then I realize, no, this is why I train people. Like, this is why, I'm like, it's good, but I can make you better. But it's so frustrating. It's a really weird, frustrating space to be in. I don't want to sound like I'm whining. I am not complaining in any way, shape, or form. And I do think that the coaching that we do at Coach Train EDU, it is the coaching that I wish I could have. And I designed it that way. And it's the coaching that I know works really well, just given a decade and a half of feedback. And I mean, I could go into all the theory behind it, why this works, but I really do feel like the coaching field is moving more in this direction. Even the ICF in the way that they moved they used to have 11 standards, now they have 8. different categories of standards, they have moved more in the direction that we train people in, which is that explorative, looking at different, ideas of learning, things like that. Yeah. So
I agree, and I've had that experience myself, and I've had to stop working with coaches before, and I hired a coach around physical training. But I remember selecting this coach because the coach said um, they weren't just going to be training; they're going to dig deeper and do that coaching. And very quickly in the session, I was like, "Hmm, no, I'm being told what to do," and it was great actually because experiencing being told what to do or asked why I wasn't doing it really helps you see the perspective of your own coachees. Because it wasn't a good feeling. And I got a little bit irritated. And I was like, well, if I knew that, it wouldn't potentially be in this session. I'd like to, and I still fit to go deeper. I'm smart. I can print out checklists and timetables. I know I should be getting up and doing this in the morning. I know about calories in and calories out. I want to explore deeper. And then I found myself and I was like, oh gosh, I've got to stop this. Maybe you can ask me about my values. And right now I'm coaching myself. Yeah.
yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing.
So, John, one of the themes for International Coaching Week is around exploring your potential. What does exploring potential mean?
The word potential comes from a Latin word potens, which literally just means power or like the ability to do something. I always thinking, where people are thinking of their highest potential as I don't know. It's an interesting. I think in some ways it's a trap. And in other ways it can be extremely fruitful to explore it. A lot of times in school, teachers will say, "Oh, like the student's not working up to their highest potential," or that comes up a lot. It's one of those words that feels like it brings up a lot of emotion. Or you've heard this. Almost everyone has heard highest potential in school. The way that I think it's used is more around what traditional school looks at, which is a student applying themselves uh, are they applying themselves and getting the 100% or getting the grade that they need to get in that space. And so I think within that context, I think what potential puts people in is it puts people into a fixed mindset where there is such a thing as a potential. There's such a thing as the highest potential. There's such a thing as 100% in our lives that we're somehow achieving for. But when you're really unpacking it and looking at it from a growth mindset, there's no such thing as highest potential. It just doesn't exist. It's a mental construct. And when people get into that, I think it really plays into this traditional mindset of there's a grade, there's a possibility of 100%. So when you're looking at potential from a fixed mindset standpoint, those are my thoughts on it. From a growth mindset standpoint, it's more around the effort and the practice. Like, so in coaching theory, it's called internally referenced. Are you applying 100%? Are you applying all the effort you can possibly put into this? And and building a stamina and a way to keep it sustainable over the long run. So it's almost like if I could change this, I would change the word from potential to practice. Are you engaged in meaningful, consistent, systemized practice? Forget about potential. Focus on practice, the actual, like, what are you really putting into this day after day? And then potential will follow. I find when people focus on potential, it's a lot on judgment. When people focus on practice, you can then, shift it into curiosity, like what's going to be useful for it, not useful for it. Those are my thoughts on it. And I don't mean to like deflate the balloon of, yay, International Coaching Week, like highest potential, go after it. It's good marketing. Why not? But in terms of like actual, like, rubber meets the road, it's practice. It's consistent practice, habits, systems. Are you trying stuff out? Are you failing enough? Are you really pushing yourself enough? Are you succeeding enough? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's more of a mindful design of how are you dealing with the actual physical actions. I once had a coach told me, he's like, look, he said, you're not going to think your way out of this. You're not even going to feel your way out of this. You have to act your way out of this. But the thoughts and the emotion are also present. They will affect your actions. That to me is practice.
I love that perspective, John. I've seen the word potential overused, and actually people have their own, as you said, their own interpretation of what potential is. If I think about what I was told in school or even by society or upbringing as an Indian woman, and I was talking to somebody the other day and I said, I have often been underestimated. And I've used that underestimation to my advantage at times. Yet, if I had listened to what others thought my highest potential was based on their world of the map and their belief system, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now. So I'm very curious about that. And I like the way you were talking about meaningful, consistent practice.
Mm-hmm.
Super cool. It's more empowering to me, actually.
Yeah. Lindsay Helm, one of the first people I trained, and she's now in Philadelphia. She and her husband have a successful physical gym, physical therapy gym, mental mindset, growth mindset, coaching based organization. She's amazing. She gave a whole talk, 20-minute talk on highest potential and the trap of it at our conference in 2016. And that it has stuck with me. This idea of what it means. And I think there's just an element of deep empowerment that happens that from a coaching session. So I prefer to think of in coaching more in terms of knowledge-based work versus empowerment-based work. From the construct of school, having 100%, trying to reach 100%, which let's perceive the highest potential as 100%. I still think it's limiting. That's a limiting mindset construction. And to really break out of it is empowering. Is thinking, okay, so what the empowering perspective is, you don't really know your highest potential. What if your highest potential is 300%? Right? Does it even exist? I mean, now we're thinking of like platonic ideal. Like, is there like some sort of platonic, mental image of the highest potential that we can try to accomplish? Yeah, no. No. Sorry, Plato. What are you gonna do?
So, John, I'm hearing you talk about an individual's power
Yeah.
and how can then coaching support individuals to maximize that power towards whatever their limit of potential is?
Right. I just had an insight, real time insight, Raj. And I don't know. Maybe I'm feeling a little, I don't know, saturated with superlatives of thinking greatest or maximize or getting to this place. One idea that I've been deeply playing with is this idea of enoughness, of allowing what is to be enough. Reminds me of the difference between the philosophy of more versus the philosophy of enough. And what if the maximized or the highest potential or whatever let's call it the ideal, the optimum, isn't necessarily to maximize, but to have things in harmony. And when I'm thinking about how do I harmonize instead of maximize, it's a different flavor, it's a different feel. And I think coaching at its best, it looks at what's happening already in our lives as beautiful, as enough, as part of our journey, even the very unjust, the ugliest, the cringiest moments of our lives can, with support, care, love, understanding, curiosity, and empowerment, become some of the things that act as catalysts for our very best work, for our most meaningful work. And I think that is coaching at its best, is looking more at the harmonization of experience. And that's what I've been playing with a lot, personally and professionally, in the past couple months. And it's a different flavor. I really like it. I'm not sure where it goes yet. I'd be curious if, I get emails from people that say, hey, I disagree. We need to maximize everything. Or there is such a thing as highest potential. Really? Can you define that for me, please? Kind of stuff. But that's what I've been playing with for me in this, personally and professionally in this field lately.
That's beautiful, John. And I know we're almost at time. Yeah, I'd love to talk more about this next time. So everyone tune in. I think we've talked more about enoughness, because not only is it International Coaching Week, it is Mental Health Awareness Month. And the theme of Mental Health Awareness Month is all around you are enough.
Mm-hmm.
I am enough. So what a beautiful message for us to be closing out on. What is a message you'd like to leave us on with that, John?
I just feel gratitude for you, Raj, in this space, your questions, to really give me the space to play and share these ideas. It's a gift. And I just feel a lot of gratitude for the people, all of us, who are journeying, moving this field and profession forward. It just feels like, this, we know this profession works. We know this process works. I feel like there's some pretty heavy misconceptions of what exactly we're aiming for, that encourage judgment and comparison, rather than really, encourage empowerment and cooperation and gratitude. And I feel like those are the things that I want to promote this week and put forward.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, John. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful to listen to your insights, the beautiful coaching conversations that happen in this place. I'm grateful for Coach Training EDU and our audience and coaches listening. And I'm grateful that I found my way to be a coach. So thank you, everyone. And we look forward to seeing you next week.